So, what's the one thing that all life does that it doesn't actually need to do to survive? Nope, it's not eating or breathing. It's making more life. In this explainer, we're going to dive deep into the fundamental drive of all living things, reproduction. And right off the bat, we hit this really fascinating paradox. You know, unlike needing food or air, an individual organism doesn't have to reproduce to stay alive. It takes a ton of energy, so why even bother? Well, the answer is pretty simple. Reproduction isn't for the individual. It's for the survival of the whole species. It's how life makes sure the show goes on. Okay, to get how this works, we've got to look at the instruction manual for every living thing, DNA. Think of it as the ultimate blueprint. It holds all the information needed to build an organism. So it makes sense, right? If you want to make a new organism that works just like the original, you have to start by copying that blueprint. And that is the core mechanic behind all reproduction. It's why kids look like their parents, their body designs are similar because their blueprints, their DNA, are copies. At its most basic level, reproduction is just all about successfully copying and passing on this genetic information. Yep, that's the universal truth. It doesn't matter if it's a tiny little bacterium or a massive blue whale, the whole process kicks off by making a fateful copy of its DNA. This one simple fact connects every single living thing on this planet in one long story of replication. So, what's the most direct way to copy the blueprint? Well, you just copy it. This is what we call asexual reproduction. It's life's original, copy-paste function. One parent, one blueprint, one direct copy. Simple as that. The most basic method is called fission, and we can see it right here with this amoeba. This little single-celled organism just copies its DNA, stretches out, and then splits right down the middle into two identical daughter cells. And just like that, one becomes two. It's the original biological copy-paste, super efficient and direct. Now, other creatures have a slightly different trick up their sleeve. This hydra, for instance, uses something called budding. A little outgrowth, a bud, just starts forming on the parent's body. It's a genetically identical mini-me that grows up, and when it's ready, it just pops off to start a life of its own. And plants? Oh, they have some seriously clever ways of making direct copies. We call it vegetative propagation. On this bryophyllum leaf, you can see these tiny new plantlets growing right from the edges. If they happen to fall onto some soil, each one can grow into a whole new identical plant. No seeds required. Okay, but what happens if the environment gets tough? Well, life has an answer for that too. Spores. This bread mold, Rhizopus, produces thousands of them. Each one of these spores is a potential new organism, all wrapped up in a tough protective wall. They're basically tiny survival pods, just waiting for conditions to get better so they can spring to life. So, making perfect copies seems like a fantastic strategy, doesn't it? It's fast, it's efficient, but there's a hidden danger, a major plot twist in the story of life. What happens when your biggest strength suddenly becomes your greatest weakness? So, what you end up with after all that direct copying is a population of organisms that are pretty much genetically identical. A whole community of clones, all perfectly suited to their current environment. But that word, current, is the key. See, the thing is, environments don't stay the same. They change. Temperatures can spike, food can vanish, a new disease could pop up. So if everyone in the population is exactly the same, what happens when a new threat comes along that they're all vulnerable to? The risk is just immense. A single big change could be absolutely catastrophic. Like the text says, if that niche is drastically altered, the whole population could just be wiped out. Talk about high stakes, right? And this is where we get a really profound truth. Perfect copying was never the real goal. Those tiny little errors, the variations that happen when DNA gets copied, they're not a bug, they're a feature. This variation is the raw material for survival. It's the engine of evolution itself, and it's the only way to adapt in a world that's always changing. But, waiting around for those random little variations to show up, man, that takes forever. So life came up with a revolutionary upgrade, a way to seriously speed up the process of creating new combinations. It's called sexual reproduction, and it's less about copying and more about remixing. Let's put them head to head. Asexual reproduction is like a photocopier. It's fast, it's direct, but you get very little variation.
Sexual reproduction, on the other hand, is like a blender. It takes ingredients from two different sources to create a totally new mix. Sure, it's slower and way more complex, but the payoff is huge. Tons of genetic variation. And that is the secret to long-term survival.
The whole process is just brilliant. You take all the built-up variations from two different individuals and you shuffle them together. This creates brand new combinations of traits in their offspring, which just massively accelerates the rate at which a whole population can adapt to new challenges. Okay, but wait. If you combined two full sets of DNA, wouldn't the offspring have double the amount it needs? Good question. To solve this little math problem, organisms create special sex cells, which we call gametes. These cells, like sperm and eggs, contain only half the genetic blueprint. So when two of these half sets combine, voila, the correct amount of DNA is restored in the new individual. All right, let's bring all these big ideas back home and look at the species we know best, us. Human reproduction is a really fascinating and complex example of this whole sexual strategy. So here's a look at the specialized systems involved. The male reproductive system is designed to produce the male gamete, small, mobile sperm cells. The female reproductive system produces the female gamete, a much larger egg cell, which also comes packed with nutrients for a potential embryo. And it all kicks off with fertilization. One of millions of sperm cells fuses with that single egg cell. And in that one instant, their two half sets of DNA combine, remixing the genetic blueprints from two parents to create a completely new and totally unique individual. After fertilization, this new embryo makes its way to the uterus and implants in the wall. From there, it develops this crucial connection called the placenta, which acts like a lifeline, providing oxygen and nutrients from the mother. And over the next 9 months or so, that single cell will develop into a fully formed fetus, getting ready for birth. And, because we understand this complex process so well, it also means we've figured out ways to control it. That's the whole foundation of reproductive health and contraception. The methods, which range from physical barriers like condoms, to hormonal methods, to surgical options, they all work by stepping in at a specific point in this reproductive journey, whether it's stopping the gametes from meeting in the first place or preventing implantation. So when you think about it, from a simple cell just splitting in two, all the way to the incredible dance of sexual reproduction, life's deep need to create more life is this powerful force for both continuity and change. It might just be its single greatest strength. So the question that leaves us with is, as our understanding of this process gets deeper and deeper, how will we choose to use it to shape our own future and the future of all life on Earth?